right, good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Thursday, September 21st, 2023 Planning Board meeting. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introduction to board members. To my left, we have Paul Amatucci, myself, Michael LaRue, Rick Raines, and Les Bodwell. We have Irish Griffith, the Code Enforcement Officer, Terry Wilson, Assistant to Code and Planning, and Lee J. Feldman from SMPDC. Before we open up the public hearing, I just want to make a comment that the Beaver Dam Campground public hearing has moved from today to October 5th. So if you're here for the Beaver Dam Campground, I'm sorry, but it will be next meeting. They needed to get some more of their stuff ready. So after that, I'll open up the public hearing for preliminary plan and conditional use major subdivision, Norman Court, R44, Lot 20, Civil Consultants.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Yep. Thank you, Les.
Hi there, my name is Neil Raposa. I'm with Civil Consultants on behalf of Norman Court LLC. I'll just do a quick overview. This has been in front of the board several times, so there are not any substantial changes to the plan since we last brought it in. Again, we've still just been discussing it with Maine Water and still waiting for final comments from Underwood for any additional sewer improvements that they'd like to see on the plan. Besides that, this is 3 building with 6 units apiece, apartment buildings. Involves the improvement of the existing Norman Court to town standards to allow the use of the building for access for the proposed development, as well as maintain the use on the remaining lots that are on Norman Court. There's one additional single-family lot that is proposed closer to Old Pine Hill Road. That's going to be broken off the same piece of property. Beyond that, I'm open for any questions and hear what the public comment is.
Yep. If anyone wants to come up and say what you have to say, just state your name and address, and then you're welcome to it.
Patricia Rainowska, 1 Hefflinger Lane. Nice to meet you. Patricia Rainowska, Raynowska. I'm concerned about basically doing more draw on the town's everything. Sorry, I'm nervous. I don't want to be recorded right now, and I know I am. What about more kids being added to the school system when they're already having issues? Also, the drain on the police department, the fire department, water, all that. Don't you feel like we're adding a lot more to our city when it's not ready yet? That's my concern. And that's really about it. Traffic is a big thing. With even the more houses that you put on Hefflinger Lane, coming down and then trying to go to 9, that's a nightmare. Maybe lights need to be put in there. I feel like all the infrastructure that we're doing, the city's not catching up fast enough. Does that make sense? So that's concerning. That's really all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Jakes. I live at 3 Hefflinger Lane. My husband and I built our home 6 years ago. I must say I'm very disappointed to be speaking at another public hearing that impacts the privacy of my neighborhood. A year and a half ago, I was here speaking on the impact of the extension of Hefflinger Lane and the addition of 13 new homes through my front yard and the right-of-way. Today, I'm here to speak about the impact of the proposed development behind my property. Currently, there's a wood buffer between Hefflinger and Norman Court. It's not very dense, but it has provided us with privacy and quiet over the years. As a neighborhood, we were able to enjoy a natural woodland setting with the wildlife that lives there. As I mentioned, the wood buffer is not very thick or dense in many areas behind our homes. Once they start clearing, the construction and townhouses will be visible from our development, not to mention the noise from the construction in the 18 units once they are finished. Now that Haflinger is in its final stages, I'm finally able to use my yard again, after a year and a half of dirt, mud, noise, trucks, back and forth. The last thing I want to do is to be in my side yard or be on my deck and look at patios, decks, townhouses, and a parking lot through a sparsely wooded buffer. I'm asking the board to consider requiring that a wooden sound barrier or tall wooden fence be erected that would blend into the wood line and minimize the privacy impact on our cul-de-sac.
Hello, my name is Sarah Ellis. I'm an abutter. I live at 98 Old Pine Hill Road. My house is right below Lot 1, or just south of Lot 1. And I've walked in through there a lot of times through Lot 1 and Lot 2. It's really wet. So so they're going to be filling in wetland. I mean, so that concerns me that they're filling in so much wetland there. I'm also concerned about the wetland that's on my property and also the property of these folks here that is downhill from where the buildings are going in. And it's our own wetland that has spring peepers in it, irises, all sorts of animals, probably salamanders, but I haven't found any blue spotted. Anyway, I'm concerned. I'm not sure how, without all of that area being clear cut, runoff is going to be increased greatly from that area, so I'm just wondering, I'm worried about our wetland. Certainly, I did notice in the stormwater management plan that's included in the packet, there's a mention of they say not to use pesticides, and I certainly hope that if this is built up, if this is built, that the Homeowners Association will stick with that agreement to use minimal pesticides and also keep the grass cut high, not low, just to minimize. I know there's another culvert going to another wetland, but I'm concerned about this one that isn't even mentioned. It is on all the maps, but there's no talk of it. I was happy to see, I believe, and on page 121, there's a map that seems to show a tree line. So I was certainly hoping that they would, if this goes through, that they'll leave the trees or even increase them, as Kim said, to keep a barrier between the abutters and this new massive place that's out of character with any other buildings that are here. The 3 stories, I do know there's a thing that says we're supposed to keep it all and make it look like fit in with the land and with the area. There are no other 3-story townhouses except one other one that he has built, but that was built into a hill, so that's really only 2 stories above the street level. These are going to be 3 stories above street level, perhaps towering over the trees that are even left. I'm not sure about that. But it seems out of character with this small, quiet, formerly quiet street. One other comment is that they're talking about landscaping with native trees. Well, they listed 3, one of which is not native. There are no native crab apples. There is I have a recommendation that I don't have in front of me of another tree that would be a better one if they're going to do that. But don't put in non-native ones and call them native. What else were you to read about? So many things. I've been away for 3 weeks and just came back this morning, so I haven't had a chance to go through it all. I did have one question. Will there be a time when we can submit a deadline for when we can submit more comments if I have more?
It depends if the public hearing is closed or open. If it's closed, no. If it's open, yes.
Can we write appeals on that? Because I obviously didn't do a very good job presenting
Yes,
my...
you got to speak on the mic when you talk.
So she was asking, or you want to come up after I finish, I guess. Okay, so you'll let us know if there is an option to submit written comments in case we didn't get it all down today. I think also that there is a request from another colleague who can't be here to make sure that the lighting is night sky friendly. that would be, I think there's a mention of it in there, but I didn't get a chance to look at it. But it's just so much traffic, people, noise in such a small area. It really feels out of character. And, but I guess that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I got nervous. So the draw on the school department, the fire department, and the police department, I think that's our biggest concern is that Berwick is growing so quick, which is great, but it's not great if the infrastructure is not catching up to it. So that's our biggest concern. Privacy, obviously, we don't want to have 18 houses behind us with additional kids and families and pets and all that. So is there a way that we can go ahead and write a letter to you? Because my husband also travels, so he can't submit his opinion, and there's other people I know around the area that wanted to sign something about not having the other houses on Normandy Court.
So usually how that works is if you're gonna email or write, you do it before the public hearing, so then either Irish could read them, and
Okay.
then we can still have it.
Okay, well, this hasn't been approved yet, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
But there's no more public input after the public hearing is closed. After
Okay.
that, it's just deliberations through the planning board, and that's it.
And, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I was going to suggest that you probably want to leave this public hearing open
Yep.
to give them opportunity to provide additional written comments for the next meeting.
Okay. And then can we also have a petition signed if the people don't want it? Can we have all of them signed? No, you can't do that.
No, you can't, you cannot, if it meets all of the requirements of the zoning ordinance, you can't, just because you don't want it there, refuse it. That's not part of the ordinance.
Okay.
I can answer that from right away.
So my name is Lorraine Cooley, and I live at 98 Old Pine Hill Road, and I'm on a butter as well, and I'm concerned about it. It seems really densely packed into a very small area, and that's very wet, as other people have already said. And it seems that it's in R. The zoning is R2, which doesn't normally allow apartment buildings. Correct?
No, it allows apartment buildings.
I'm sorry?
It allows apartment buildings.
Actually, zoning does?
Because R2 is like transitioning towards rural
Right.
and not making the, I mean,
But
we
it's
all,
transitioning
most of us
from
who,
downtown to rural.
I'm sorry?
It's transitioning from downtown to rural.
Right. So we, as people have pointed out, many of the neighbors who live there really value we're on the edge of town. There's tons of woods back there, and we don't need to be stuffing it full of apartment buildings that are just squeezed in there, and it seems that it's just crowded into a really teeny space, and maybe the justification that is because there's 18 units and it's 18 acres. But plus it's also one house. I don't know how the calculation got done to allow that kind of density, and the 3 stories tall. I mean, even the other townhouses on Old Pine Hill Road are 2 stories tall. They're not 3 stories tall. It just seems really, and this is a teeny little dead-end side street that's very wet and wooded, has lots of wildlife, and it just doesn't seem appropriate for this kind of development. And it seems like if 18 units plus the house, plus all that pavement for 36 parking places, plus making the road twice as wide and making a big loop, it just seems like that should be counted towards the one. It's not really 1 acre per unit if that's how the math was done. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like enough. It just seems like they're just being stuffed in there, and it's going to be clear cut, and it just does. I don't understand the logic behind it. So, and I'm worried that it'll just be the first of other trying to develop more along that same road, and it's just a nice little quiet dead end street. I just would like to see it stay quiet, and the kind of development that was done on Haflinger Lane is much more peaceful and in line with what the neighborhood is like. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Myers, 2 Norman Court. I just like to say that I have no issue with this. I'm all for people protecting their personal property. However, this is not everybody's property. It's Les's property, or the investment group that is behind Les. Understand the easement on my property, 17-ish feet that they're going to be cutting in. Right-of-way laws, got it. That's not technically my property, so I have no problem with them taking that. I do enjoy having the trees there. I think the wooded buffer should still be a thing. I saw you leave those on Haflinger, so that was pretty nice. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if nobody else has anything else to say, we did receive an email that I was asked to read into the record here.
Okay.
So it says, hello, this is from the Berwick Library Association, by the way. Hello, our board is not available to attend tonight's meeting, but as abutters to the proposed project at R44 Lot 20, we would like to take this opportunity to share our comments. As the town pursues increased density in the neighborhoods surrounding downtown, including increases on Old Pine Hill over the last 15 years, we feel it would be prudent to make improvements to the safety of the road for pedestrians and vehicles. For example, sidewalks, crosswalks, smoother pavement, and reduced speeds. With the entrance to this development directly across from the library entrance, we wonder if it would be a good location to add a 4-way stop and crosswalks. The application states that a traffic study isn't needed due to the threshold being 40 spaces, which I'm going to step out of line a little bit here. I think they might have meant trips, not spaces. However, it is quite close at 37, which seems to only include one space for a single-family lot. So we would suggest that a study may be warranted. Another concern for the library specifically is ensuring the development provides adequate parking for both residents and visitors and allowances for snow removal. The library has experienced issues in the past with similar nearby developments using our lot as overflow parking and interfering with our own snow removal or other operations of the library. And then they said they would appreciate it if we confirm receipt of this message, and it has been shared with the planning board as part of the public hearing. Thank you. Signed, Kristen Doloff, President, Berwick Library Association.
Okay. All right. Well, we will leave the public hearing open. So for the next meeting, was it October 5th? If there's any more questions or comments, concerns, either email Irish or Terry, right, at planning.
So either, if you want to send them to me, my email is code@berwickmaine.org, and Terry's is planning@berwickmaine.org.
Okay.
And Maine is spelt out for those that haven't had occasion to email anybody.
Just as clarification on this, Mr. Chairman, is are we leaving this open for public comment during the intervening time, or are we having another public comment just like tonight on October 5th? What are we doing?
It'll be another one like tonight.
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to make that clear in case it wasn't clear to anyone else here.
Yep.
It's not just to send in comments, but you may show up again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Okay. Les, if you want to come back now. I'll open up the first public comment. This is for non-agenda items. Non-agenda items. Just state your name and your comment, if you have it. Okay. Seeing no public comment. Next is approval of minutes for September 7th, 2023. Les, you weren't here, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we
Can't approve.
cannot vote on that, so we'll move that to the next meeting. Yep.
Before you get too far down the road, even though you're done with the public hearing and leaving it open,
Yep.
you might want to just officially lay that application on the table until the next meeting,
Okay. Yep.
just as a process standpoint,
Okay, so we should table that.
unless you're not done with it tonight.
Well, my thought was if we wanted to get the answers that we have now,
Sure.
and
You'll come back to it?
yeah, and then we'll table it
Yes.
because there's not going to be any actions. We
Correct.
don't have a quorum to vote on it.
Correct.
So, okay.
Yep.
All right. So next is old business preliminary planning conditional use major subdivision Norman Court R44 lot 20.
Well, that was a short-lived trip.
All right, again, Neil Raposa, Civil Consultants. Not sure how you want me to proceed. Did you have a list of the items that you thought needed to be addressed? Or
So one of the concerns I could state is the concerns of utilities. We get letters from the school, from the police, from the fire, all of them, and the water department, the sewer department, all of them have said that they have, they have plenty of resources for this. Water says that they have plenty, same with sewer. Then the traffic, concerns on traffic.
So, what I would suggest, because there's a section in the ordinance, two sections in the ordinance. I wish I had that. I didn't know we were going back to that. Hold on. So there's two sections. One says that if I'm going to go backwards. One says that if you have less than 40 parking spaces, then I'm paraphrasing, but then you don't have to do a traffic impact study.
So I stand corrected on the spaces.
Except that the piece before that one, and I can go back and find it to cite it for you, does indicate that you can request, and you probably will want to request, at least for the applicant, to provide trip generation information, turning movement counts. It's not a full-blown traffic impact analysis, but it will give you certainly an idea on the number of peak hour trips, peak hour being the heaviest hour in the morning and the heaviest hour at night, that would be generated by that development in that area.
Okay.
And you can certainly ask the applicant to provide that to you.
Okay. Can you say what it was again? Trip generating?
actually, it was provided.
Oh, okay.
Did you provide it?
Yep.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
We did.
I'm pinch hitting tonight.
I know, I
for
heard.
Hannah, so I apologize.
Yep, no, we did an initial traffic assessment, and that's basically taking the ITE manual
Yep.
and taking whatever uses. With this one, we expanded it, and we used all the uses that are on that road currently, even the Gary's, the auto shop, and everything, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't putting enough trips on Norman Court that it would require a second entrance anywhere. So that was kind of our limiting factor on this project, first, size-wise to begin with. So we have provided those numbers, and they all do indicate that it doesn't trip the next level of traffic study.
Perfect.
All right.
Next issue was concerns about screening, primarily just screening around Haplinger, in between this and Haplinger.
I guess I'll let you speak to that if you what we're willing to do.
I think, it's a pretty standard request, is to do screening trees. I'm not a fan of fences, but I'm certainly willing to maintain a wood buffer, or if we clear cut it thin enough that, it's clearly visible, we can add some trees in there for screening. I think every one of my projects we've had to do screening, so.
Okay.
One of the things that on screening, Les, is that I know when we've been talking in the past about like solar, and people are having it in their backyard and looking at it. Some of that screening being evergreen, so that the leaves don't fall, and then there's no buffer at all. So
Yeah,
if we
that's almost the only tree that you would use as an evergreen.
Okay, great.
That, stays green all year.
Okay, thanks.
Next is concerns of wetland impacts, and then the cutting in zones 1 and 2, lot 1 and 2.
Yep, and I guess to to that end, we did have a wetland scientist and the high-intensity soil for previous development that was coming through, and this was kind of the same approach that was going to be taken then, except for the fact that we are now proposing to get additional treatment at the parking area, putting in a pervious pavement assembly that works as kind of a filter, so it allows that anything that's any of the pollutants on the parking lot, which is kind of your high pollutant area, now that's receiving treatment before it gets into that wetland downstream. And that was one of the things. While it wasn't specifically required, we did want to make sure we were taking care of that wetland downstream from the project. So.
I think if I could add to that too, I know that a couple of the neighbors expressed concerns about the wetlands area, I think in here, and about the additional runoff that we would create. And basically, we treat all of our runoff, so none of it is going to impact their wetlands.
Can you clarify what treatment means? Treat it with what?
What we're proposing is it's a porous pavement. So it's basically you have a porous asphalt pavement that the water runs through instead of running off, and then there's a filter material below that, which is basically a sand material that gets filtered down through and then collected with just conventional underdrain pipe, and then that is what's released into the wetlands. So it's been treated from all the any pollutants or the majority of the pollutants that are on the pavement, as well as it also gets cooled, so you don't have the hot runoff coming off that parking lot. It cools down to an ambient temperature, and then it's released into the wetlands, so it's not a shock to the system.
Okay. And the what was it? Lot 1 and 2. They said about the wetlands, but I don't see any wetlands on that.
And what it was basically determined during the study is that this portion here, where that's the outlet of that existing culvert comes through, it's a drainage swale here that's always backed up at kind of the berm area in Haflinger, and that was also, if you'll remember from that, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not, but there are twin, 30-inch pipes, very large pipes that cut through the cul-de-sac there. So there is quite a bit of water that makes it to that point. And part of this project is we're widening the culvert that exists at Norman Court because there's such a large amount of water coming through there. Currently, it's not adequately sized. So we're trying to improve the situation on both sides of the street at this point. And it is going to require some filling of one wetland that's an isolated wetland that was basically created with the development when Norman Court was originally constructed, and that was evaluated to make sure it wasn't a vernal pool or anything like that. So that is actually the only wetland that's classified as wetland that's going to be impacted. It's about 600 square feet.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add on to that for clarification purposes for folks. On the identified wetland areas, the applicant is allowed to fill up to 4,300 square feet with just paperwork that they submit to DEP. They don't have to get into any kind of impacts until they get beyond 4,300 square feet. And also, it's just the idea of understanding that wetland doesn't necessarily mean that it is a wetland. It has to have certain vegetation and certain soil types in order to qualify as a wetland versus wetland. So I just want to clarify that as well for the board.
Thank you. Next was pesticides. You said in the HOA that you'd have limited pesticides. Next is concerns about 3-story buildings.
If I
Yep.
may, Mr. Chair,
Yep.
the town does have an ordinance that restricts the height of buildings to 35 feet. We don't restrict number of stories. We restrict building height from grade. So that, shouldn't become an issue.
These buildings will be.
If they
Correct.
submit a permit that is for a building that is higher than 35 feet, I have to deny it. And if they build it and it goes above 35 feet, they have to fix it.
Okay. Next is concerns about crabapple trees. As you were saying, though, you're thinking more of evergreens to put in there.
Yep, and I think those were just on the front landscaping and
Okay.
going through there, and that was
Not for screening.
Yeah, no. What I generally do is I'll look at the DEP list of approved plants and go from there. But I don't think we have our hearts set on any specific
Okay.
crabapple trees.
The dark sky friendly, we have a ordinance about that, so they have to be dark sky friendly compliant lighting for exterior lighting. Concerns about the density, how everything is so close.
I mean, that's for this particular project. The closeness of everything here was really to try to minimize the environmental impact and keep everything consolidated. It was a conscious effort. And as far as the density goes, it's well under the density requirements. There technically could be up to 45 units with the area density we have, but it would just require other things to be put into place that the site really doesn't lend itself to, multiple exits, things like that. So we got to the maximum of what we could do with the least amount of impact.
Okay. And then, the library just said they had concerns of traffic, but we already discussed that.
And as far as the snow removal goes, we have tried to leave a portion of this open area here that's currently that's kind of where that field is, just beyond the utility pole when you're out there. And that is kind of the intended spot to get the majority of the snow from the site plowed down the road and onto that location. So,
okay.
I can speak more specifically to that library issue. The library issue stemmed from my other buildings across the street. When I was removing the snow, people would go park in the library parking lot, and that would cause a problem for the library because the library's trying to get their parking lot cleared as well. So, we've instructed all of our tenants not to do that anymore. I mean, that was a couple of years ago. I don't think they've done it in the last couple of years. But I think that's specifically what the library was concerned about. And in this case, because we have so much land here, and this road, even though we're only going to pave the road to here, there's another 500 feet of road with a big open area up there. So that would be my intent, would be to clear a spot up there that people can just go park their car up there while I clear the parking lot for the 10 or 15 minutes it takes me, and then they can get back there.
Thank you. Nope. Thank you. Does Lee J or Irish have any questions?
Of course, I always have things to say. I also think it's important to understand, as you board members probably do know, that there's potential for the board to consider off-site impacts as well, and looking at crosswalks or looking at sidewalks or things of that sort in that area. And that certainly is something that we would take into consideration as you work through this process and make recommendations as to potential conditions for off-site impacts for the applicant to be prepared for as well.
Okay.
And I do want to add that I did speak with James on that aspect a little bit earlier because he was aware of this email. And he said that it was something that we could possibly see about. I wasn't clear because he was heading out and I was heading in, but whether he meant for the applicant or for the town to possibly see with DOT if there was any, if DOT could take a look at it and see if they felt comfortable with there being stop signs or slowing measures out there, but that would have to be a DOT decision, not a applicant decision from what I understand.
If it's possible for a crosswalk there, that would slow down people. Right? A crosswalk from there to the library.
Certainly, it creates a visual presence
right.
In that area.
Yeah. I play Frogger 50 times a day out here. I'm not the person you want to ask.
Well, what you're supposed to do and what some people do, it's not hand in hand. But
are you amenable, sir, to having a DOT review done to see if those things are important for that area due to the increase in units and traffic and people?
To be honest, this is one of those situations where it's that if the town is looking to have improvements done, and the town came to us, looking to work with us, I think that'd be a situation that'd be, more amenable than us trying to track it down and see what the town needs for it. We're trying to keep our impact to what we're producing here.
Okay. Lee J?
So one of the things that's probably the best kept secret, I don't mean that literally, but our organization works very closely with the Maine DOT. In fact, you are I believe you are a CAX, Kittery Area Transportation Service municipality, and that means you're in the urbanized area down here in the southern part of the state. So we run the CAX operation, and I can have our staff who interface with DOT on a regular basis take a look at that and see if that is something that can be accomplished on Old Pine Hill Road.
Okay. Does that sound okay?
So they don't have to go directly to DOT. You don't have to.
Right.
We can interface
Okay.
on that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you, Lee J.
All right. I mean, that's all I have. Did you guys have anything else?
Covered everything on my list.
Yeah, you covered everything on my list, too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next is new business, conditional use and site plan review, Berwick 1 Solar, R62, Lot 5-1.
You talking about the one on Wentworth Road?
Yeah,
The Wentworth
Berwick
one?
1 Solar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 93 Wentworth.
I don't call it Berwick One Solar, but they do. Good evening. I'm Jeff Oliva with Civil Consultants here representing the property owners and the proposed solar developer for this project. I came to you guys about 4 or 5 months ago to start the process, and we had scheduled a site walk. I canceled the site walk because the solar developer that we were working with, Aegis, was in the transition and was bought by Correlate, which is basically the same people, just a different name, that is working with the development. The plans have stayed the same, no changes, still 1 megawatt proposed layout, same location. Like as I mentioned, the design has not changed since then. And I guess what I'm looking to do tonight is start this process back up again with hopefully scheduling a site walk, and then moving forward after that through the public hearing process. And the only change on the plans is really just indicating the correction for the right address, and also just changing it to the to Correlate as one of the leaseholders.
Okay.
And then also, as mentioned before, is to group into this. This has been property's been a long-term gravel pit for many, many years without a permit. And now, since we're here doing the solar aspect of it, with the conditional use, lumping in the mineral extraction portion of it as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just to clarify, just because you guys were not privy to this, he just stated that the address change, previous owners had told him it was 95 because that was the nearest address. Although our town's addressing ordinance requires any lot that has a parcel on it to be given, structure on it to be given an address, the garage, storage garage on the site was never actually given an address. So, so I provided him with the actual address that per our addressing ordinance, and that's the change in the address. The original address was incorrect.
Yeah, originally I had it labeled as 95 Wentworth, and it's 93.
Okay.
So what is the visibility of this site from roads going?
I don't think you're going to see anything from the road as you go down Wentworth Road. You back into it. If you look at way the topography and the way you come into it, the road is a little high. You come in through the dirt road, comes down, you cross the brook, and then you go into the gravel pit area. Like we talked about at the meeting, when we stake it out, I think you'll be able to see what that looks like. And there's a lot, even though they logged the property a while ago, there's still plenty of trees that you won't be able to see and see the array from the road. Very highly doubt that you'll see that.
And from abutters?
From abutters, there's really there's some abutters that are on the. We're going to look at my map so I get my north-south correct. I'm going to call it the east side along near the North Berwick line. They may see there's a little bit area on there, but it's pretty much wooded. As we work towards the north and the northwest, there's nothing on that side. Most of the houses are along Wentworth Road in that area. There's one house that even as you turn in on the driveway, right on the abutter, that shares that easement through that section. It'd be tough for you to see the gravel pit from their backyard in the barn on that side. And when we go to the site walk, it's the barn that has the American flag on the side of it. You'll see there's a driveway right to the left of it, and just carry that straight back.
Okay.
I'm pretty familiar with this property. I looked at buying this property years ago, and I think he's correct. I mean, I would be surprised if you could see any of it from the road, depending on the exact location. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been in that gravel pit, and yeah, you get down in there a little ways. If you're talking about where the gravel pit is,
yeah, that's where the array as you come in is the gravel pit on the left-hand side.
Are these solar panels fixed in position, or are they the ones that rotate according to where the sun?
I believe these are the ones that they don't spin, but they turn.
Okay, they'll turn.
They
They'll
move
pivot.
that way. Yeah, they pivot that way. Yeah.
Okay. So they are jacked up a little bit.
They are higher,
more
yes.
than the older style.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the inactive gravel pits. It looks like there's two up in the northern part.
Yeah, some those are going to pretty much
Stay,
be adjusted a little bit with the grading that has to happen to set the solar panels. Those on that northwestern side are going to be kind of abandoned as they are, as they have been.
Yeah.
Most of the activity now is on the southern side, and that's where we're going to get that part permitted and work off of that.
Okay.
Right now, the open area is under the DEP regulations, but what we're going to do is do the notice of intent to comply just to get everything organized, to get it all up to snuff with as part of DEP permitting.
Okay.
I had a small question about the gravel pits as well. Being that it looks like you're going to extend the perimeter of where the gravel pits can go to, will there be an increase in the use of the gravel pit extraction from what you currently kind of have going on now?
Currently, no. The intent here is to still have the same operator, and he has a small operation to go in there and use that. The property owners still want to continue working with them, and as they go through that way. If it does change, there would be obviously an increase in truck traffic, but I don't think that there is. I think it's this is more of a situation of the usage comes and goes in flurries. Like sometimes I need to get all that. I need that sand, so I'm going to grab it and use it. Otherwise, I think
it's pretty much an individual pit, right? I don't think it's really a commercial pit.
It's not
Anyone can just pull in
no.
my gravel.
It's not open to the public. It's
So
really right now.
Your intention is not to become Pike South?
No, absolutely no.
Okay.
There's not enough area there. There's a lot of acreage, but as far as material goes, it's kind of one of those ones where you're still going to pick at it. I think a lot of this has already been removed, and we're driving over it on Route 4 because that's the history is that this area that gravel was used to construct Route 4 running from South Berwick to North Berwick along that
Right.
side.
I guess my question is that requires a conditional use if we're updating that.
Yeah.
At that point, it could increase the traffic.
I mean, it could, yes. I mean,
Per-
we have information
per-
there.
right.
Per the approval, yes, yeah. But right now, it's, it's been a gravel pit.
grandfathered in,
It's been a
yeah.
gravel pit since the 50s.
Right.
And now we're adding a use with the solar.
And updating that.
Let's update this use and get it under compliance.
Okay.
So just for clarity, so you're looking for approvals, I mean, you're looking to apply for a solar farm and get the gravel pit approved?
Correct.
Or reapproved?
Well, approved because it's aged such that it doesn't have an approval. It never came to a board of any kind.
Okay.
It's just been a gravel pit. You look at the old USGS maps and they're in the applications, and those were generated in the early 60s. Right on the properties to,
Gravel
a
pit.
pickaxe and it says gravel pit.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that just getting everything under order now under current zoning. We couldn't go in there and just do the solar without having to take care of the mineral extract.
Okay. Yes, please.
Jeff, is there a name for that pit? Is it I don't know, like the MCC pit or perhaps Mayberry pit?
No, on your list there, no, there's no name
It's
for
not
that.
listed
No, it's
here
not
at
listed
all.
on there.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Glad you knew exactly what I was
Yeah.
going for.
Lee J, do you have anything?
Excuse me, yes. So Greg, on the pit, I know
Greg.
it seems to be a
Jeff.
small operation right now.
Greg.
I said Jeff. On the pit. Any portable crushers in there? Any processing going to happen in there?
Right now, they do a little bit of processing and crushing in there. I think it's one of those situations where they do it as needed, and that would continue.
Okay.
I'm meeting with them next week to kind of go over and get a better feel about their, if anything's changed since the last time. I met with them earlier, and it was just, it's currently a small operation.
And
The intent is it to stay that way, but it's not always, doesn't have to.
what about a reclamation plan?
Yes, we have part information in there. We have details on our plans about what needs to happen for that reclamation, when they need to do it, when they hit certain areas, and when they have to start working through that.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
one of the things, if I can just comment on that, I may be speaking out of turn, but this is a gravel pit and not a quarry. So it's a big difference. A quarry is where they blast the blast the granite, and they crush it. So everything is crushed. From my remembrance, when I was in there, it's a gravel pit, so it's just screening material. Completely different animal versus.
Oh,
crushed.
I understand, Les. I've been working on one for over a year now in one town. If you'd like to join me up there.
and they may crush rocks once they have a big pile of them. But my guess is that the ordinary operation is a little bit of screening and not crushing.
Yeah.
As a general rule.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you get a chance to get in the plans, L3 has reclamation notes on them for that.
Again, I'm just holding
Yep.
down the fort.
Absolutely. Information there on the top left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As with, it seems a lot of solar projects lately, being kind of new to the planning board myself, I'm trying to learn as I go, so if my question is silly, forgive me, but in your plan, do you have finances set aside or planned for the decommission of the solar panels?
Yeah, so as part of the any kind of solar project that goes in the main, they have to set up a decommissioning plan that has to be approved by DEP, and that has information about what they need to provide for a bond for 20 years down the road, whenever they need to do that. So as part of the process, they need to submit all their information, get their DEP decommissioning approved. Once we get that, then we'll submit that to the town, and that goes along with that aspect of it.
Okay.
So there is. It's a state side of permitting that handles the decommissioning and the bond that they need to put in place to cover that.
Well, that takes it out of our hands, which is good.
Well, actually, what's happened in the past with us in Berwick, when we've approved these things, is we also have a review during that period of time to make sure that the bond is still sufficient after inflation, et cetera, and maybe other regulations that come into play so that it can be decommissioned entirely and properly.
Yeah, and I think if I don't know all of it, but if I look at the history of when solar started to what it is now, I think the DEP's really caught on and really has that kind of inflation aspect of it to know, 20 years down the road, the cost is not going to be the same as it is today, and to look at that part of it.
Yeah, I think these solid-state panels are 30 to 50-year panels.
Yeah. So that whole decommissioning process is run by the state, and they look at that. I provided information in the package about what their kind of first pass is with that. I'm sure DEP will have comments. We kind of stay out of that part, let them handle that part.
So Jeff, without me digging through this, is part of that decommissioning plan to flatten and put solar panels on the area that they mined out?
Yes. No, that's not the decommissioning plan. Decommissioning plan would be
Sorry,
when they're done.
I meant the reclamation plan.
No, okay. No, the reclamation plan is the reclamation is kind of separate. You've got the decommissioning for the solar that handles 20 years down the road. It goes belly upward, and then nobody wants to do it. What it takes to rip that out and then plant the area back. When we talk about gravel pits in the reclamation, once they're at a large enough area, before they start excavating into new space, they have to spread topsoil and plant behind them because they can only have a certain amount of area open. When we look at what's going to happen where the solar panels are going to go, there's grading that needs to happen because they need to have that kind of transition to be a little bit smoother than it is now. So we're putting the solar panel over a bunch of the old excavation areas. They're going to have to smooth out some of those spaces to make that work for the panels because they can't be all jagged. They're the way they have the pylons go in and the posts go in to support the solar panels.
That's what I was hoping, because I was like, I see these mine sites, where they just, dig big holes, and I'm like, putting a bunch of solar panels in a spot like that seems like a good use of that space at that point.
Yeah, so we've got that area. They do need to do grading and push stuff around, and the way we've situated it is that there's an excess of material so that they can sell that gravel, and when they're doing the grading for solar panels, they're going to be able to use some of that material as well.
Okay. So last time we found this complete, and then we scheduled the site walk. But since things have changed, do we have to find this complete again?
The only thing that's changed is the
is the one entity and the address.
No, you don't have to do that.
It's already complete, and
Yep.
then we already voted on the waiver.
Yep. For landscaping.
Yeah, 9.8.f.2.b.vi. The landscape plan showing location type and approximate size of plantings and location and dimensions of all fencing and screening. So that one was waived. I guess next would be to schedule the site walk again and the public hearing.
Correct.
October 5th, there's already 2 public hearings that day. So possibly would be the meeting after that.
Okay.
19th.
The 19th. And then the site walk could be on the 4th or 5th. Does that work?
That works. You tell me what time, and I'll make sure that I'm there, and that we'll have some grade stakes out there just to indicate It's a big area. It's 5
Yeah.
acres of
Yeah.
area, but we'll be able to give an indication about where we're at.
Okay. 5:30?
Works for me, whatever works for you guys.
It's a-
Five better's getting
Okay.
Yeah,
5?
yeah.
5? Yep.
And it's a big area to
Yep.
walk around
Yeah.
if we want to look.
Yep.
Yeah. What time? When do we change clocks?
I don't know.
Do we
Yeah.
even?
Yeah, do we even need to now?
Yeah,
Okay.
Do we get to play in the bulldozer?
I hope so.
Awesome. All right.
Great.
Thank
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chairman. I'm not sure we have enough time to notice for October 5th, to send out a butters notices.
For the
October-
sidewalk?
For the sidewalk, rather.
Okay. Jeff?
Dave?
Yeah, that's fine.
Would then, that would be the 19th?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay,
We're
hold
just
on.
looking at the calendar.
Exactly 2 weeks.
So if they went out on Monday.
So would this, something that was going to come up in informational items, so we'll just leave it at this. I have something on the schedule for the 12th, and that's going to involve the board all getting together. Would that be a good time for, that gives
The
us the
sidewalk.
extra time that we need
Okay.
for the, would that be all right with you, Jeff?
Oh, it's fine with me.
Okay.
Yep.
And what time? Same time?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock? Okay.
Same time, same channel.
All right.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's just open stuff. Yep, yep. All right, so second public comment. This is open to any resident for non-agenda items. All right, I'll close that. Next is informational items.
Okay, so just real quick, we did set the dates for the workshops that we had been emailing about. So on the 28th, we would like to sit down and have all the board members watch the Maine Municipal video. And then on the 12th, we have confirmation from both Lee J. and Phil Saucier, the town's attorney, that they will be able to be available to present for the boards to talk to you guys, answer questions, all of that. So that this is all procedural workshops. So we do have a time set of, what did we say? 6 o'clock on the 12th.
Yep.
And that email will go out. That was just confirmed right before this meeting. I just need to know what time you guys would like to do on the 28th. We chose dates in between meetings.
How long is the video?
About an hour and a half, I believe. Do you want to start it at 6 to 7:30? What did you say?
I said, I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what you didn't say. I don't even eat popcorn.
6 wouldn't be bad.
You want to do
Let's do 6 o'clock.
If we do 6 o'clock, that gets you all home a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
I think that's all I.
What was the time on the 12th?
We're going to do
the
6
second- yeah.
at then too. Yeah.
Yep.
You have a 5 o'clock site walk.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, we have 5 p.m. site walk, and we'll make sure we include that in the emails.
Okay.
And you can all head back here afterwards after we get our liquid timers.
Awesome. Any other informational items?
The only reason I'm sitting in, I don't know how much you were told, but the only reason I'm sitting in tonight is Hannah is on her honeymoon. She got married this past weekend.
Nice. Oh, nice.
So,
Congratulations.
hopefully she'll be back and settled and ready to get back at it next week.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
I have a birthday in 2 days.
Nice.
I don't think we really have a whole lot for you guys tonight.
Nope.
I just have a question for Lee J. Regarding when we continue with the public hearings.
Yes.
And notifying neighbors of this.
So it's an interesting question. there's what you're required to do by law, and there's what you may want to do as courtesy. By law, once you notify the abutters of a public hearing, it's their responsibility to continue to follow that project and make sure that they're back on the agenda for a certain meeting to be able to follow it. Courtesy, if you chose to do it, would be to send out another notification or post it. Well, you have to post it anyway, but send out another notification to the abutters of when the next public hearing is coming. But by law, you only need to do that once, and then it's the abutters' responsibility to follow that process.
So we send out our original abutters notices per, with
Yes.
certified and regular mail.
Yep.
So would just a regular mail
You could do it if you
follow up
wanted to regular mail.
rather than the two. We don't need to do both.
Correct.
Follow up. Okay.
Yep.
I do have an informational ask, I guess. It seems like, and I guess, Terry, this is sort of for you, but it seems like minutes they come in at different times for meetings past. Sometimes they'll be on the website right away, other times it's not until, well, for example, tonight, this is my first eyes on these minutes for September 7th, I believe.
That was sent to me.
It was
Okay, good.
sent about a week ago.
Okay.
Maybe at the
I think
beginning.
it was
Maybe I didn't get it.
the earliest part of this week.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but
Maybe I didn't get it. But as a rule, what is our timeline for how the minutes come in after a planning board meeting?
there is no rule.
There is no rule?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Just whenever they get done, they get processed and
Okay.
It doesn't always fall in the highest priority category.
Right,
Right.
okay. Thank you.
It rarely falls in the highest priority category. Let me say that.
That's the last
It
thing on the
never-
totem pole.
Yeah.
Yep.
We were discussing that prior to the meeting with Lee J on how to best do the minutes because it just becomes a little,
Arduous.
yeah. Well, I was going to say tedious, but I think
Yeah.
this is nicer. I mean, if you look at some of the meetings we've had
Well, if you
that
have to
have
go
been,
through a 2-hour meeting, I mean, if you're watching it again.
2 isn't bad. Some of our meetings have been 3
Hey,
hours.
we try to limit it
See,
now.
Paul's got the eyes. He knows. Some of them have been 3-hour meetings,
Yes.
and it's a lot to
Yes,
cover.
it is.
And
Yep.
so-
One thing.
But it's
that we are
okay because
going-
we get paid overtime for that.
yeah, we'll put a little extra air in your pay envelope this week, Paul, just for that.
We're going to try to streamline the minutes because they're too long, they're too wordy, everything's online. So going forward, we're going to streamline them, and so hopefully we can produce them quicker.
Nice. Just some light summarizing.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think that's fine. I think you're right. I think that to try and recap it in word form for the entire thing, I mean, people can watch it
Yes.
on replay over and over again if they really want to know the details.
We just weren't sure what was required, so Lee J clarified that for us.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
helped
Thank you.
us work that out to streamline it significantly. So
Good timing on the question.
It was a plant, wasn't it?
the only other thing I do want to say in regards to informational stuff is I want to remind you guys that when leading up to these 2 workshop dates, first of all, for those at home, they're workshops, so they won't be televised. Especially the MMA one, because that one would get me arrested because I'm not allowed to mass broadcast that. I can show it to a group in there, but not mass broadcast. So we're going to skip that. But if you write down any questions you may have in regards to procedure, how any of that goes, again, like I said in my email, write them out. If they get answered during the workshop, during the video workshop, great. That video workshop may bring up more questions for you. Write them down so that we can, and if you can get them to Terry or I earlier before we meet on the 12th with Lee J and Phil, so that they know kind of what areas the board may be looking for more clarification on. That would be very helpful and help streamline everybody's time. That's all I have.
Awesome. All right. Seeing nothing else, I will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? All right. Thank you. Good night.